Plenty of flower, Paprika. Welcome. Good
Yes.
afternoon.
Hello.
Good, good to see you.
Hi.
So
Nice to be
sorry,
here.
but we have been a little bit late, just because with
No
the panel
worries.
we went a little bit longer, but the conversation was very hot, and the audience was really interacting, asking questions, commenting. So we didn't want to stop, but we still have a lot of people connected, and I'm wishing they will enjoy your masterclass. So you can introduce yourself and then start the presentation.
Yes, perfect. So hello, everybody. I'm Paprika. I work for Infor. So it's a big software company that does lots of software for various industries, but I'm specialized in hospitality and revenue management solutions. And my job there is to look after the team who takes care of all of our customers, so the support and customer success aspects of it, and also discussing all the product evolutions for our revenue management systems.
Cool. Right. So you can pull up your slide and tell us
Yes,
how to boost direct revenue now.
let's do that. Choop.
Okay, I see your slide. Okay, time's up.
So, perfect. Up. Let me just go back. So just to tell you a little bit how I did this presentation, so you know where the information comes from. So I used a lot of my experience. So I do work for a software RMS provider, but before that I was working in hotels, and I also worked at an OTA. Long time ago, that was my first job. And also working for the RMS. At the beginning, I was for a long time implementing the software for hotels. So I've seen a lot of different properties and was able to see behind the scenes for a lot of them. I also did some research, and I contacted some experts in the domain, and tried to use a bit of common sense too. So let's dig in. Just to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. Of course, direct revenue is the people who book via your own channels, so not a third party. So it's as if you buy your tomatoes directly from the farmer and not from a supermarket. So as an introduction, I want to put things a little bit in perspective and discuss why we're focusing on direct revenue. And then we're going to dig into 5 areas to focus on, and we will wrap up. And I'm happy to see that actually a lot of things were discussed in the previous part of the meetings and panels and everything. So should be familiar. So we've been hearing for quite a while now that it's really essential to boost direct revenue. But why? Sometimes it's good to just ask yourself simple questions. Why? So the main things I hear is, well, it costs less because there's no high commissions. You can also have direct contact with the customer. It makes it easier to retarget them. So every time I hear this, I'm always wondering if that's really the case. Do you know how much it costs you to get direct bookings, and this in comparison to other ways to get bookings? And also, guests they are in the hotels, so I would imagine it's possible to also get their details and be able to retarget them. So this is very simplified on purpose, but it's just to highlight that it's really essential to base any decision you make on facts and not just on what everybody's saying. You're all different, and there may be different journeys to reach your final goal, which is most likely to maximize the long-term profits and guest satisfaction. So let's start with our first tip. Boosting direct bookings, that's from our point of view, your point of view, right? But what do your guests actually think about that? They're the ones who are taking the decision on where they book. So let's try to see this from their point of view, and maybe we can wear their flip-flops as an image. So what are your guests thinking? What's the benefit for them on the various channels? So if we take like the Googles, OTAs, meta search, well, all hotels are in the same place. Some of them even have an app, so it's just super handy. It's quick. The user interfaces are usually very, very user-friendly. It's very easy to compare hotels. They all look the same, so as a traveler what to look at. You can filter on so many different things, look at maps. It's very easy to book, quick. Some even have loyalty programs. So there's lots of advantages. And it's tech companies who are behind it, and they have lots of developers. They definitely invest in their user experience, and it shows. So that's for these guys. So now if we look at your own website, well, probably, I'm sure if we ask like just people on the street out there, of course with a mask, they probably don't realize that there's a difference between your websites and booking via Expedia, especially, or an OTA, especially if it just comes up, in the top of, if you do a search for a hotel. They probably don't realize. So in most cases, they won't see the benefits until they actually have tried it and they actually arrive on your websites or even are at their hotel and you explain stuff. The reasons they may come to your website directly or naturally is, if they see it has actually a better rate, better value for them, or if they have actually a lot of questions and they need more details. For example, if you think of a family, traveling with a young child, they probably have a lot of questions to make it a nice day, or if they want to look at more things than just rooms and organize their trip. So you should definitely dig a bit to understand what's your guest booking process. Why did they book on your website? Why didn't they? And what would make their lives easier? And then, use that to bring them to your website. What's great is that actually you have guests inside your walls all the time, maybe a little bit less at the moment, but they will come back when they can, that's for sure. And they're really an amazing source of information. So, try to see if there are ways, if you're not doing it already, to collect that information, get their brain on Excel somehow. So, maybe one way to do that is to empower all your client-facing teams and put an actual process in place to easily collect that data. It has to be simple, or else it doesn't work. Either you have a tool you can use, or it could be as simple as using Microsoft Forms. It's super easy to set up and work with. So you can do this, at all the touch points that your team is with customers, like check-in. If you still do a manual check-in, there's a bit of downtime there. So why not use that time? And the key is really to get insights from your guests and track this so you can use it. Second tip. So here, you should channel your inner Sherlock Holmes and get real insights on your business. So who's booking? Where are they coming from? What is their type of profile? How do you do that? To be able to do that, you need to have a structure in your PMS, in your property management system, that allows to track things correctly. So important things to track are things like rate codes, market segments, the country of origin, when people can travel from different countries a bit more, distribution channel. Distribution channel, we've often seen, it's not always, it's the one that's not tracked super correctly. It's a bit more difficult. I don't know why, but if you don't have, for example, a field to track that in your PMS, maybe you can have dedicated rate codes for each specific channel. So what's important is that you use fields that you can do reports on, and to ensure that the correct data is entered. So put a process in place to, first of all, enter the correct data from the beginning, especially if there's manual elements to it, and also check and correct the data once it has been entered. If there's some manual entering, there will be mistakes. That's normal. So just put in, checks to make sure you can actually use that data afterwards. So there's loads of tools you can use. You all have different ones, but it can be as simple as using the existing PMS reports that you have. If you have a revenue system and it has analytics in there, you can use that. You may have a business intelligence tool, survey results, if we think of tip number 1, and then you can compile stuff and even just use Excel if you have nothing else. It also may be that actually you're listening right now, you don't use such tools, but maybe other people in your company have access. So discuss with them to get the information. And here are things that you can analyze for each distribution channel. So when do guests come? Have a look at day of week patterns, seasonality, what time of the year are they coming? Are these distribution channels coming only on specific events, for example? Then to answer the question, who are they? You can analyze market segmentation and/or rate codes. Have a look at the country of origin. How many guests do they have in average in their bookings, and how long they're staying? That'll give you a lot of insights. What do they book? For that, you can analyze the room type and also the total spend. So here, if really focus on all revenues, not just rooms. And then why are they traveling? That's back to tip number 1. So really start somewhere, depending on what tools you have, what data you have available, just start with something. It can be simple. And then you can ramp up and add stuff to that. So what you do with that, you can have a look, okay, are the results for each distribution channel different, or are they quite similar? And depending on what you find, it will tell you if there's an overlap between your channels or if they really have distinct profiles. And it also will allow you to know your direct bookers better. You're probably wondering why I'm not talking about direct business yet so much, you'll see. So now it's time to get a little bit nerdy. And yes, I have my nerd glasses here, always do. And do a true return on investment calculation for your key distribution channels. So think of each channel as an investment you're doing, and then you need to calculate the benefit on investing in that channel. So first of all, step one, list all the distribution platforms. That's the easy part. Get the number of room nights and revenues for each of these channels, maybe for the last 12 months, or maybe you want to take a bit longer to have a more representative view. And then this will allow you to have the share of each and identify the top channels you want to focus on, the one that bring the most business. Then that's the second part where you will probably need to work with finance to calculate the costs. This part may be a bit tricky or seem a bit trickier, but it's definitely possible. It needs teamwork and definitely buy-in from your hotel leadership team. So try to get all the costs possible. So costs like operational costs, like what sales teams or other team members involved to get the business, having to revamp your websites, for example. There's also distribution costs, so like commissions you have to pay to third parties, and marketing costs like advertising. So whatever costs you manage to get and includes in your calculations, just make sure that they are consistent and the same for each channel. And then also get the total revenues for each channel, so not just room, but really the total revenue there. And once you have all that, that step 3 is almost the easiest. You can use that formula here to calculate the return on investment percentage. So now you've done all your nerdy exercise. In a lot of cases, yeah, the direct channel may be one that actually has one of the highest ROI, maybe not, and that's okay, but at least you know what you're working towards. And the last 2 tips, I'm going to really focus on how to move business to the direct channel, which is why you're here at this masterclass. But just to close off on the ROI, once you decide what you want to do to bring more business to direct, you should also calculate how much all these actions will cost you, like if you need to do more advertising, if you need to invest in third-party tools, get new team members, I don't know. And then you refactor this into your ROI calculation. So you have a real true picture of what you're spending and what you're gaining. So tip 4, to drive direct business, well, people need to find you. It's very obvious, but very important. They need to know that your website exists. They need to see it somewhere. It needs to come up. So that's the longest tip I'm going to be focusing on, and you'll see I'll have lots of sub tips on there. And so they need to find your hotel. If they're doing a loose search like best hotels in Ibiza, your hotel needs to come up. Okay, and you'll see I focused everything on Ibiza just to put everyone in a good mood and think of holidays and everywhere places we'd love to go. And I just took random hotels that came up, so no choice on there. So one simple exercise to know where you stand is to look for your hotel name on Google and then see what comes up. So let's say I just created and opened a new hotel in Ibiza, and as you can see, I tried to do a search, and I'm really not doing a good job because everything I see is only linked to food stuff and recipes. So let's have a look at 2 important areas to look into. So one way to secure more direct booking is SEO, search engine optimization. Most of you know this quite a bit. So really, in a nutshell, it's the practice that allows to increase quantity and quality of the traffic that goes to your website through, and they call it organic search engine results. So it basically means that your website is ranking higher and in relevant searches without having to pay for it. So when someone searches for hotels in Ibiza, they're going to get loads and loads of results. So you need to find a way to come on top, and there are ways to do that. Another very important thing is meta search platforms. So you've discussed this, I've seen in the previous presentations. So you all know about these. Maybe if you don't know, it's called meta search, but it's all the sites that list many hotels And for each hotel, it lists all the prices from many channels, including your own website. So you see the screenshot here. So, and the guests can actually now also book directly from some of these meta search sites. The most important one is, as you know, Google. Also, TripAdvisor is a very big one. But have a look, for your markets. What's the most relevant meta search? And then you need to make sure you connect to them so that you are actually feeding rates and you appear on the searches. So for this, you can look online how to connect. It's quite simple and it does make a difference. So meta search and SEO. So now we're going to have a look what will actually, other things that will help you come higher and increase your visibility. So make sure, again, basic, but if you don't have it, you don't show up. Make sure you list your hotel in Google. It's free and it's the only way to appear on the website and in maps, which is a tool people use a lot and more. Another element is keywords on your website. So have a think, how do you expect that your potential guests would find your hotel online? What words, what sentences would they type in the search engine to locate you? Then have a look at your website. Do these actual words and phrases, do they appear at least once? Because including the good keywords in your websites and not just once and a bit everywhere is definitely a big part of what SEO is about. So you can do researches on keywords and then make sure they're included in the website. So for example, if someone is looking for a romantic boutique hotel in Ibiza, you show up if that's your target. So keyword research, it seems a bit complicated at first. If you've never done it, you're not aware, but it can bring in many new guests. And there's free, simple resources online. If you search like beginner's guide to keyword research, you'll find lots of stuff there. Another big factor that Google takes into account when deciding the ranking of the sites is actually the number of links so that other websites have pointing to your website. So if another website has the link of your hotel, that will definitely increase your ranking. So it means that the more popular and more talked about the website, the more likely Google will place you to the top spot. And it's not something that you can buy links or things like that. It has to be a natural thing. So for hotels, it's a bit tricky. We don't do blogs or things that allow to have lots of links. But ways that people do it is, if you do something newsworthy and then you contact the press about it, have a bit of PR going on. You can also do partnerships, like if you have a city website or you have a museum next to you, maybe you do a partnership and you both include your links on each other's website. But that will make a difference in your ranking. There's also some paid activities that you all know about. So Google, again, being one of the main driver, you can bid for Google Ads. And, the higher you bid, so the more money you spend, the higher you appear up the list. But I don't know if you've heard, but quite recently, I think like last month now in April, there's been an initiative from Google to do free hotel booking links. So these actually will make you appear next to the hotel ads part when the travelers search for hotels in Google. So if you're already, so you need first to be connected to the Google meta search and feed in your pricing there. And you technically need to open a meta search campaign, but that could be as low as 1 cent. So it's quite easy. From the Google side, they're doing it, to get more hotels to sign up, which makes total sense. And for you, you get some advantages. So it's a bit of a win-win. So definitely have a look into it. It doesn't hurt. The pricing. So that was, the whole conversations before. The pricing is super important to appear in the organic listings, in the natural list. So you need to have the best price available on your website. That's directly going to be taken into account when Google decides where to show your listing. So not having the best price to see like that could be actually the difference between you're seen or you're invisible to potential customers. So how to do this, and again, this has been discussed a lot before, is by tight parity management. You need to know what's out there, and also using features such as member rates on Meta. So another important thing is that the price that's displayed, so like here on the screenshot you see, needs to be accurate. That means that if the guest clicks on your official website and they go on your website, it needs to be the same price. And they check these things. So pricing, super important. Another very important thing is that allows you to appear higher in the rankings is overall to have a good booking experience for the website, but even more on mobile. That's what they look at. So mobile booking experience should be a big focus. Since COVID, more and more people are using their mobile to book, and it's actually the leading channel in many regions. So what helps to have a good mobile experience? Two main things is the loading speeds. It needs to be quick, but also reducing the information available. Just go to the essential, which is what rooms you have available and at what rates. People don't want to have to scroll for ages. And these things are being checked. And if they're goods, you will appear higher. So that was a few tips on that will help with your SEO and meta search. Again, I just brushed on them. I would really recommend to look online and learn more about these. There's so much information available. You may also have an in-house team handling this, but do an audit yourself, have a look, discuss with them. Maybe you can bring some fresh ideas on their table. And if you don't have an internal team, there are also third-party companies which help with all these things. And finally, for the last tip, when people find you, you need to make sure that they like what they see and have all the information they need. Basically, it needs to be a no-brainer for them to book. One way to do that is transparency. If you're having a strategy to provide the best value via direct, then just say it. Be fully transparent about it. They will have no idea if you don't tell them. And it's actually been seen that conversion rates from meta search, they double when hotels repeatedly show guests that they're getting the best rates. So, it's the time to be that friend, that loves to talk and always repeats the same story. You know that person, so do the same thing for your hotel. Then it seems basic, but of course, having good quality content is really important. So a few more concrete things there is, have a lot of pictures, visuals. The third-party websites, OTAs, metas, they're good at that. It makes a big difference. Have a map of your hotel if it's a resort or a bigger property, floor plan of the rooms, any visual really helps. If you have different room types, they should each have their own picture, not all the same if it's different room type. This does exist and it doesn't really help choose. And then your product and price offering needs to be very clear. So if you have different rooms, the guests need to see quickly what's the difference between them. Why would they book one and not the other? And for the rates, simple tip would be to make sure you talk in human language, not in hotel language. We see still very often best available rate. That's our term, bar, best available rate, and then you see a cheaper rate. So if you're a guest, not a hotel, you're like, so I don't understand. I thought the best available rate was the cheapest one. It's a bit confusing, and we don't realize, right? So also don't have too many choices. As humans, when we have too many choices to take, we just freeze, and they will guess maybe like, okay, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. I'll come back to it later, and maybe they will not come back. So you're losing out there. At the moment, I think it's also really important to reassure people that they can cancel without any fee if the cancellation is linked to a change due to COVID, regulation change. So you have your own cancellation terms, and it's great to put them and be very visible. But all hotels, if for some reason the country gets closed, you will cancel without a fee. So say it. It's not written anywhere usually, but this will really make a big difference to reassure people that it's okay. If for some reason they cannot make the trip, they will not lose their money. And then to remember that booking the hotel is just one aspect of the trip. So why are people coming to your location? If you're coming for business or leisure, the hotel is just one aspect. So maybe there's things they would like to know that would be interesting for them to know about in your surrounding area. So make sure this is included on your website so they don't have to go shop around to loads of places. You want to make sure they stay on your website once they're there. Also, the website should be accurate, current. It doesn't look great if you see an offer and then the dates are passed. It's not bookable. It doesn't give trust to the guests when they see these things. If you can have personalized messages, this is really, really cool. So have a look, see if your booking engine can do these type of things. So, having a targeted messaging, depending on the profile, for example, for families, you would have a pop-up, hey, we have a kids club, you can relax during the holiday. That's great. And I saw this offer the other day. I thought, oh, that seems very tailored to me. They seem to know me very well, Rose Old May. And then on this one also, if you have the possibility to have a chat functionality on your website, this is great because then people, you can ask their questions and you can really personalize the conversations with them. And finally, get some tools that allow to analyze what guests are doing on your website. So that way, it's the only way for you to see if the changes you're implementing, because probably it's going to be gradual, are actually working. Are you, having more visitors? Are more of them booking, etc. So there's Google Analytics, which seems to have some free features that are very useful, and there's lots of other providers out there. So you can't improve what you can measure, right? So that's the final sentence. If there's one thing to remember from this masterclass, put on your guest flip-flops, put a process in place to collect info directly from your guests to understand why they're booking. Then put on your detective hat and discover the patterns of each of your distribution channels. Then put on your nerd glasses, calculate the ROI of your most important channels. Don't be shy. Make sure people can find your hotel. Dive deep into SEO and meta search. Become experts in the area, and be captivating. So high quality content. Because if you make a lot of effort to drive the right people to your website, it needs to be worth it. So now I hope you're all visualizing a guy or a girl with flip flops, a detective hat, nerd glasses, and with loads of charisma. I'd definitely like to meet that person. And just for a final word of wisdom, each of you, I don't know who you are behind that screen, but you have different businesses, different teams. So you will have lots of different ways of applying these tips. But for everyone, I would just say do it step by step and continuously strive to improve things and do something better. Don't hesitate to contact me. These are contact details, my email. You can find me on LinkedIn. And thanks a lot.
Thank you, Paprika. Really interesting, really cool. Thanks for sharing those, great contents. I hope the audience will take some, tips from your list, and of course apply from tomorrow, right? So at this point, guys, we are at the end of the episode. Thanks, Paprika. Thanks, Infor, for this masterclass, and I will see you at the next episode. I think you have some other participation in the future, right, Paprika?
Yes, yeah, we do.
Okay. All right. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.